Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the March 2023 WordPress News Roundup here on iThemes Training. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the host here at iThemes Training, and wow, we have a lot of news coming up this month. These news roundups happen once a month, usually around the third Tuesday of the month, and we take a look at the news that's happened in the last 30 days in the WordPress world, particularly from the viewpoint of those of us that build and manage sites for clients. And we have a lot to talk about today, so let's just dive right in. If you are just joining us in Zoom, I'm going to drop in the link to today's slides. That's everything that you see on the screen. Particularly important for this webinar because we have a lot of links in this slide deck. Everything we talk about is linked at the bottom. If you want to go and read the full story, read more about all these things. Also, the link is there for the replay, which you can share with others. It's publicly available. It'll also have today's transcript and the chat log. Anything that happens there in the chat will show up there on the replay page as well. So with that, let's get started, shall we, with news from Core. The release of WordPress 6.2 is imminent. It is 1 week from today. The final beta drops today. Yeah, we are well underway. So full release is next Wednesday. The beta includes 292 enhancements, 354 bug fixes for the editor, and more than 195 tickets for WordPress core. Most of the changes in WordPress 6.2 are related to the block editor and the site editor, formerly known as full site editing. And here's some of the top changes that you'll notice in WordPress 6.2. One of the things, if you are using a block theme, then you will see that the site editor now is out of beta. So they have rolled this into, it's a real live thing now. But again, this is for a block-based theme. So if you're using, for example, Kadence, you don't see the editor under appearance because Kadence is taking a different approach to full site editing. Ben Rittner and the team have been very transparent about the fact that they've chosen not to follow core because for the moment, because the core full site editing experience has been very much in the air over the last year. And Kadence has, we've moved forward. So we'll see how the Kadence team begins to integrate more with the way core is doing things. I think it'll be very simple for them going forward to do that. But you'll see if you're using a block-based theme, the site editor is now out of beta. Something else you'll notice is that the whole template editing flow for block-based themes has a much nicer flow than it did before. There's some interactions that make things look pretty cool. Nice sliding interactions that you'll see something like this. Whoop, there it went. So things kind of move around, and it's a nice editing experience. It feels very modern and powerful, which is pretty cool. Also, there are now color blocks that denote which template parts you are editing. If you're editing a block-based theme template, we dealt with a block-based theme for our WordCamp Birmingham site for that event that was last month here in Birmingham, Alabama. And it was kind of a hot mess. And a lot of these changes that are dropping in WordPress 6.2 they're going to help a lot of the difficulties that we experienced in using that block-based theme for our WordCamp site. This little template box is going to help quite a bit. Also, you see that some settings and styles are now in sub-panels. So you have this sort of tabbed approach over in that right sidebar so that rather than having lots of different blocks, they're sort of nested within these tabs and sub-panels, which is really nice. They've also added custom CSS to the sidebar menu. So custom CSS used to be part of the customizer. And if you're using a block-based theme with the site editor, the customizer, of course, goes away. So there wasn't an easy way to get custom CSS into your site. Now that's actually come back in a sidebar panel within the editor, so you can drop in that additional CSS, which is a very welcome change. Also, navigation menus are much easier to create and manage. Many of these changes, if you've been watching the news roundup for the last several months, these are the changes in Gutenberg, right? So in the Gutenberg plugin, we've been covering all these little additions. And of course, when the next major core release comes, they take all of this development that's happened in the Gutenberg plugin and roll that into core. So it's going to be nice to see these very powerful and welcome changes that have previously been only available in the Gutenberg plugin come right on into the core block editor going forward. There's also now the style book. So clicking that style icon at the top allows all these style changes that you could do globally. Now, again, Kadence has had something very similar to this for quite a while. This is an implementation similar to the way, when you change the Kadence global color theme, it affects all of your blocks, which is super cool. This is a core feature that is similar to that, and it's called Style Book. Something else, we actually covered this last month as part of the Gutenberg change, the ability to copy and paste styles between blocks. So right there in that context menu, or kebab menu, as some people like to call it, you can copy right there, copy and paste styles from block to block, which is really nice, very helpful if you want to, it saves you a bunch of clicks and having to replicate the styles. Something else that's nice that's been added is that classic widgets. Of course, widgets have gone away, and they are now moved into block-based widgets. But if you have classic widgets, they are now usable as template parts within block themes. So again, this is a really nice way to move forward and to get some of the older features of WordPress still able to be used with newer versions and block themes. That's kind of nice. They've also added a distraction-free mode for content creation, which is nice. Something else, a small change, but one that you might actually use quite a bit, is there's now a download link right there in the media library. In the list view, there'll be the link to download the file directly. So it's kind of curious why this hasn't been added in WordPress core before now. But it hasn't. It's just one of those features that once you see it, you're thinking, wow, that's a great idea. I wish we had that before. But this will let you immediately download that file straight from the media library right down to your local computer. Something else that's really nice in WordPress 6.2, we've talked about this a little bit in previous news roundups, and that is the integration with Openverse. Now, it was back in 2021 that Automatic acquired the Creative Commons search, or they kind of took over management of the Creative Commons search. Now, this is hundreds of millions of photos, audio bits, video bits that are out there. They are free to use. Some might require attribution, but they're out there, free media library search. And that is now, with WordPress 6.2, going to be integrated within core WordPress, right within the media library itself. You'll be able to search all of the Openverse assets. Now, that is really cool because frequently we'll add a plugin to client sites to attach them to open source libraries like Pixabay or Pexels or something like that. This attaches Openverse directly within core WordPress. Now, earlier versions, you may have seen this news story the past few weeks. Earlier versions of this Openverse integration only hot linked the image, which was a little crazy. In other words, if you selected this image in the Openverse search, it wouldn't actually pull the image into your media library. It would only link it to the external asset. And that's problematic for a number of reasons, like what if that asset goes away or whatever. Now, the version that will be included in WordPress 6.2 actually does bring that media asset into your media library. Here's how it looks. Here's an image block. We're going to add right there. And now we go to Openverse, and look, there's our items. We can click it. Boom, there it is. And this just demonstrates that it does actually live right there in the media library once it's downloaded. So that's pretty cool. But going to be a nice feature for folks going forward, I think. So we are right on track with the WordPress 6.2 roadmap. The release candidate 3 drops today with a dry run March 27th, and then the final release on March 28th, 1 week from today. Pretty cool. Now, we are, as we've had the last several releases of WordPress, we will have our WordPress 6.2 launch event here on iThemes Training. It'll be presented by our own Timothy Jacobs, who is the lead developer for iThemes Security. He's also a WordPress core committer, and he is on the team that maintains the WordPress REST API. All that to say, Timothy is very well connected in the core community, and one of these unicorn type people who is both Timothy is both a brilliant developer and has the really unique ability to explain things in a way that anybody can understand. So he's a great teacher, and Timothy will be presenting our WordPress 6.2 launch event. That is going to be April the 5th at 1 p.m. Central Time. You can sign up at this link right below, or just go to the iThemes Training site and you'll find that webinar there ready to register for. So that's coming up April the 5th, 1 o'clock Central Time. We just got that on the calendar this morning. All right, there's a proposal that has come out to change the process for merging Gutenberg features into core. Now, basically, the way that the core process works, let's just go back to the roadmap here. When we get to beta 1, it's a feature freeze, meaning that no more features are going to be added into the core release after that point. So you can see it's about, nearly 2 months, like at least 6 weeks to 6 to 8 weeks after the feature freeze is when the actual release is dropped. Now, the reason for that is so that things have full testing. The problem with that is that, my goodness, there have been lots of really nice additions to the Gutenberg plugin that have happened in the last 2 months. And right now they're frozen out because the last version that will be incorporated into core was whatever was present at or before February the 7th. So the new proposal says Gutenberg is special. It's, it is developed by people that are well integrated with the WordPress community. So we're going to give Gutenberg a pass on, we're going to add features of Gutenberg past the feature freeze. So the feature branch will be merged into core during the second beta instead of waiting until the next major core release. So beta 2, that's going to give it, an extra week or two after, extra week or two after the feature freeze. So that gets more Gutenberg features into core at the time. It's received mostly positive feedback. We'll see what actually shakes out there. All right. There's another proposal that has come out from the WordPress themes team, and that is the desire to create a community themes initiative. In other words, there was a goal last year that there would be 500 block-based themes in the WordPress theme directory, and they hit 247. So they got about half as many block-based themes last year as they wanted. So the goal of this proposal from Maggie Cabrera, who is an automatic sponsored core contributor, is, hey, let's put together a group of people who are going to build block themes all year long, just like the way the default themes are built. So there'll be a new community theme section added to the theme directory to highlight a curated list of block themes. Great. So that get more block themes out. That's good for everybody. Something else that has happened is that the WordPress default themes have been updated to serve Google fonts locally. So default themes later, or that have been dropped after 2017, I think 2019 was the next one. Is that right? Yeah, I don't think there's a 2018 theme. I could be wrong about that. Anyway, the bottom line here is that the default themes from 2012 to 2017 were still grabbing Google fonts from the Google CDN. And of course, that's problematic if you are in a geographic area that has legislated privacy restrictions like GDPR. So this was a move that was made because of that German court case in which a website owner was fined for violating GDPR because they were using Google fonts. And a group of contributors has said, okay, we're going to go back and update all the default themes from 2012 to 2017 that were pulling in Google fonts. Now those themes bundle those fonts locally, which that's a good thing. This, by the way, could create some issue if you've done something weird with the style sheet, and there's dev notes about that on WordPress.org. So if you have or you support any sites that are based on one of these default themes, make sure before you update it next that you that your fonts are okay, and that you may have to make some style sheet changes as a result. All right, let's turn the page and talk about the latest releases of Gutenberg. Gutenberg 15.2 dropped back on February 22nd. This was a feature that focused on editing templates and template parts. It's really good. So they've added the ability to add revisions to templates. Before, like, you change it, it's forever. There wasn't a way to roll back unless you rolled back a database backup. Now the core WordPress feature of revisions, which is super helpful, has been added to templates and template parts. That is a really, really good thing. You'll find that here in the sidebar. There's now a revisions area where you can roll back changes if you're editing templates in the site editor. They've also made some enhancements to the navigation in the site editor itself. So it's just a little easier to get around, and you see some things happening over here now. It's pretty cool. Templates, and you can look at all your templates. It's a very intuitive menu. And if I want to edit, I just click the button and I can edit that template. Really nice and easy to use. All that's full site editing changes. All right, Gutenberg 15.3 was released on March the 13th. They focused on tightening up that site editing experience. It's gotten a number of enhancements, redesigning the whole site editor to bring it more center stage. And so it's been cleaned up a bit, and some additional animation has been added. Pretty nice. They've also added a new time to read block that is available in the site editor to drop in something like this here, based on the average reading speed of a particular user. So that's kind of nice. They've also added a global duotone filter. Now, WordPress core is in love with duotones for whatever reason. It's a design. It's a very popular design trend these days. It is now going to be available globally. And so they're not locked to a particular theme or a variation of a theme. All this stuff moves into the global WordPress. There you have it. So that's the last release of Gutenberg. A lot of focus has been on making sure that all the previous features of Gutenberg are ready for core merge. So not a ton of updates in the Gutenberg plugin over the last 2 releases. Let's turn the page and start talking about security. We have a lot of security news this month. Wow, the numbers are huge. So if you, like me, have been seeing more than the average number of security vulnerability emails, this is why. The number of plugin vulnerabilities is about double what we normally have. And the number of vulnerabilities that are still active or the plugin has been closed is about 5 times more than normal. So we usually have about 30 plugins that are in the red right here. This month there's 150. So wow, that is quite a bit. So good news, I think Security Pro is on the case. Now using that Patchstack integration that we talked about last month. We've replaced the WP scan vulnerability scan with now Patchstack integration that is just a little bit better, and it's going to provide some additional really cool features that we'll roll out in the next few months that I think you're all going to absolutely enjoy. iTheme Security Pro, of course, scans your site twice a day for vulnerabilities. That's even in the free version. Twice a day, it will scan your site for vulnerabilities, any vulnerable themes or plugins that are in the Patchstack list. And if you have the Pro version, if a patch for that vulnerability is available, iTheme Security Pro will automatically apply that patch before you even have to do anything. So it keeps you protected without you having to click a single button. Super cool. Now, here's the thing. Normally, I read through the list of 30 or so plugins that are currently vulnerable and or closed. And this month, there's 148 of them. So I am not going to, we'll be here for the rest of the hour if I try to read all of these. So what I'm going to do, if you have the slides, this is for you. I would suggest that you go through and look at all of this list and just see if any of these jump out to you as plugins that you currently have on your site. If they're in this red list, they are vulnerable and closed. They should be deleted from your site because there is no current fix available. And my goodness, there are so many plugins this month. They're still coming, y'all. Yeah. So lots of vulnerabilities this month. Make sure you stay on the case when it comes to monitoring your websites for security. All right, our friends at Patchstack have published their State of WordPress Security earlier this month. This is a really great read, by the way. This bottom link, I would suggest that you take a look at that if you're involved in security and securing your WordPress site or your client's WordPress sites. Patchstack has reported 3 times more security bugs in plugins in 2022, a 328% increase in security bugs reported. 4,500 confirmed security bugs in our database compared to 1,382 in 2021. The majority of these bugs were found in plugins. 93% of bugs were found in plugins, followed by themes, and then just a very small percentage in WordPress core. And most of them were medium severity, which is both good and bad. I mean, the medium severity is certainly nothing to play around with. But we did see a drop in the number of high and critical severity risks, vulnerabilities last year. So that is a good thing. All right. Following up on this LastPass story, and we've been talking about this issue now for several months here on iThemes Training. LastPass has completed its internal investigation into the big 2022 security incident. They finished that up this past month. LastPass was hacked due to a keylogger that was installed on an employee's home computer. Hackers, as a result of that, were able to gain access to LastPass's password vault. The passwords, though your passwords were encrypted, the hackers were able to use the credentials to access some customers' accounts, the report said. Also, there we go. Neither incident was caused by any LastPass product defect, they were very clear to say, or unauthorized access, but by a vulnerability in third-party software that the attacker exploited. So the threat actor stole LastPass proprietary data, customer data, including system configurations, APIs, reported an unencrypted LastPass customer data. It's a huge deal. We've covered this quite a bit. And yeah, if you want to read LastPass's take on it, you can read their actual blog post right here. They say they've added new technologies to strengthen security, and they're reviewing all their security policies. They said they should have communicated more frequently throughout the process. And they suggest that you enable two-factor. They've gone through and resetted passwords and implemented other security measures. Yeah. All right. So LastPass is not alone. Also, a multi-year breach has hijacked GoDaddy customers' websites and accounts. 3 serious security incidents starting back in 2020, lasting through 2022, were carried out by the same intruder. Attackers gained unauthorized access to the company's managed WordPress hosting environment, and that breach allowed them to potentially obtain emails, customer numbers, and hashed passwords. The most recent breach was back in December 2022. They may also have accessed private SSL keys, which means, for example, on an e-commerce site, they would be able to see that customer credit card data that was passed. GoDaddy has implemented security measures, including resetting passwords, revoking SSL certificates, and so forth, and they're working with law enforcement and external security incidents experts to investigate the incident. Y'all, this is just going to become more and more common. We're going to continue to see these security breaches. It's just the world we live in. It's so critical that you are implementing good security practices for your own business and encouraging your clients to do the same. I am just waiting for the day when passkeys become more and more prevalent. Hopefully by this time next year, they'll be just a household word for most of these high priority sites. But for the moment, we're still struggling with passwords, and it's no fun at all. All right, let's look at some news from iThemes, shall we? And I have huge news to report. There is huge news from iThemes that is coming soon, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Don't you love it? Maybe next month we can talk seriously about some huge news coming from iThemes. All right, but in the meantime, we can celebrate Kadence blocks. There's some, the full Kadence block code base has been rewritten, modernized, cleaned, and improved. They have updated the build structure completely with component libraries. They've updated the React JavaScript structure. They have rebuilt completely how front-end CSS is compiled and output. They have changed up the way they do SVG icons and the front-end JavaScript to get rid of jQuery sliders. Yes, that's great. There's a completely new interface for block settings that's organized by tools. And if you've not yet played with Kadence Blocks 3, holy cow, is it super cool. Much, much easier to use. Lots of updated settings are now available. It is just beautiful and simple to use. I'll tell you, I think it's the best take on blocks and the ability to build websites with blocks yet. It is well thought through and well implemented. One of the cool things that I really like is the visual padding and margin that pops in as you make these changes. Absolutely love this. My goodness, it is just so nice to use these features. You can also very easily move sections within a row layout now. Click the row and look at that. You can just flop things around, moving the, it's so much easier than trying to drag and drop or even using the list view on the left-hand side. It's just really nice to use. There's also a whole new host of row grid layout options that are here that you can also deal with. in responsive viewports. So this makes web design at the responsive level. You have a lot more tools to do what you want to do. They also have added typed text in the advanced text block. So you have that little text typing animation, which is super cool. They've added more variables for settings based on viewports. Really easy to use once you see how that all is set up and working. They've also changed responsive design using CSS Clamp, and my goodness, it works really well. The ability to update, to copy and paste block styles, view block defaults, and it's also fully backwards compatible. They've done a great job with this. And if you are a Kadence Blocks user, you already know just how great Kadence Blocks 3 is. All right, moving into some iThemes training news. Next week is our March premium event led by yours truly. March 28th and 29th, that is next Tuesday and Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time. We'll be doing the Web Foundations Workshop. Day one, we'll be talking, these are the 4 topics that are just foundational to be able to build websites and work on the web. And there are also places where there's a lot of misconception and misunderstanding and things that we just tend to forget. So we're going to be dealing in day one, best practices with understanding DNS and redirects. Day 2, we're going to be talking about transactional email and optimizing images. These are 4 critical topics that you need to know, and we'll be dealing with that next week. Web Foundations Workshop, that is for members. The April premium event, we just got this booked with Elizabeth Pamplone. Talked to members about this in our office hours, I think last week, and we got this all nailed down. April 25th and 26th, again, 1 to 3 p.m. each day, Central Time. Day 1 is going to be about social media, talking about selecting the right platform for profitability, developing a social calendar, what and where to post, and some tools to use. Day 2, the first hour is going to focus on email marketing, building an opt-in and a list, how to take a minimalist approach to an email campaign. But the second hour is going to be focused on how do I take these things that we just learned in social media and email marketing and roll those up into a package to use with clients. So it's going to be a really good event next month here on iThemes Training as well. Now, those are for members only. And I'll tell you, iThemes Training is one of the best deals out there. You can sign up for a 30-day free trial. That includes our 4-hour premium event each month, a weekly office hours with me where you can ask anything you'd like, as well as the Fly Business Transformation course training, which is 1 course each month that we do live here as well. It is $30 a month, and you get a deal if you buy the year. It's a great deal, and you get 30 days free trial as well. Coming up here on iThemes Training tomorrow, don't miss this one. Paul Gilzow will be with us talking about regex. So if you've ever wondered about those hieroglyphics and those regex expressions and you want to know how that all works, come learn for an hour tomorrow, March 22nd. It's a free webinar talking about regex, demystifying the hieroglyphics. Office hours Thursday for members. Web Foundations Workshop is next week, and office hours, of course, next week as well. Plugin Roundup is coming back April the 4th, and then at WordPress 6.2 launch event on April the 5th. We always have, it's usually 3 webinars a week, sometimes 2, depending on the week. Well, let's switch over to some plugin news, shall we? WooCommerce 7.5 was released 1 week ago. 3 new blocks, expand support for global styles. This is a version of WooCommerce that is fully backwards compatible with previous versions. 278 commits from 55 contributors in WooCommerce Core, and 170 commits from 28 contributors in WooCommerce Blocks. WooCommerce does a great job of having lots of folks involved in development, and that's one of the great strengths of WooCommerce as a product. So here's what that new style book looks like. We talked about style book in WordPress 6.2 as one of those features that's going to be rolled out. WooCommerce is now going to support that directly in from core, and so you'll be able to change with a single click the styling within your WooCommerce shop as well, which is pretty cool. They've also added a new store breadcrumb block. You see that right there. They've also added a block to show the product results count. So as you're building your pages in the site editor, you'll be able to drop in these blocks and make this look exactly like you want. And then, of course, the catalog sorting block where you can choose the sort by criteria right there as well. All those are 3 separate blocks you can see right there that are now part of core WooCommerce. They've also changed the way that the code in blocks works so that rather than there being hard-coded CSS in each WooCommerce block, it now pulls in the global styles from within the site editor. So that's really good. Future-proofing WooCommerce for all those things that are happening in WordPress core. Pretty cool. All right, let's talk about some news on the SEO front. We talked about this topic at some point in the last month. I'm trying to remember when that actually happened. It may have been just briefly last time in the news roundup, but there's a new criteria that's been added to Google's value concept that has for years been known as EAT. It is now EAT. They've added an E, so it's EAT. And what does this new E mean for SEO? Some people pronounce it double EAT. I don't know. I'm going to say EAT because it just sounds more fun to me. Anyway, this is the concept that's used by the human quality raters to evaluate Google's ranking systems. And yes, there are actually people who look at web pages and give a human quality rating to the web page. And they use these 4 criteria. So for years, the EAT criteria has been expertise, authority, and trustworthiness, and they're a key factor in Google's search algorithm. So they've now added a new E, which stands for experience. And the experience refers to the user experience, including page speed, mobile friendliness, and visual design. So it's somewhat arbitrary, some of these things, but it's now all wrapped up into this EAT formula to show, which pages are designed well. Now, this seems to, a lot of times this sort of thing makes people nervous, like it's all going to change and maybe I'm going to lose rankings. But remember, the biggest thing about Google is they want to show content that is designed for and helpful to users. So if you are building sites the right way, none of this gray hat, black hat SEO tactics, is just none of that stuff, but you're building nice sites that load quickly and have good content, that's always going to be rewarded by Google. Websites that prioritize user experience are likely to perform better than those that don't. And now that user experience is a key factor, we should still prioritize the whole thing, EAT. So there you go. To help us evaluate our websites, there's now a new version of Google Lighthouse. So you may be using Google Lighthouse in their page speed tools or underneath the Chrome console where you can hit the Lighthouse tab and get that Lighthouse test run. There's now a new version of Lighthouse that's rolling out called Lighthouse 10, and it includes several new audits to help us out. So the old time to interactive metric, the TTI, maybe that rings a bell if you've done any of this sort of work, has been removed. So time to interactive, it's not nearly as helpful anymore. And the 10% weight that feature or that measurement used to hold has been moved to cumulative layout shift. So cumulative layout shift is now 25% of the overall Lighthouse ranking score. Now, I like that because one of the most frustrating things that I encounter, especially on a phone, is going to some website that pops up in a search and like you start reading and then boom, the whole layout changes. Isn't that frustrating? I hate it when that happens. And that's what this cumulative layout shift become a core of the Lighthouse score. So largest contentful paint, LCP, and total blocking time are still the 2 highest factors, but here's there's just a new weight, which I like. In Lighthouse 10, there is a new performance budget audit, which allows developers to set a budget for their website resources and to track their performance. SEO audits provide developers with actionable insights. And so it will also include improvements to existing audits like a best practices audit and so forth. So they've also introduced a new accessibility audit that's a little more granular and helping to reveal some accessibility issues, which is fantastic. There's a new interface, and it's available now. If you want to play around with Lighthouse 10, it's available in Google Canary. Now, Google Canary is like the ultra bleeding edge version. It's the developer's version of Google Chrome, which you just download Google Canary, and you'll find it. You can download it and play with it. Lighthouse 10 is available there in the DevTools. It will be available in the console of Google, the mainstream Google Chrome at Chrome 1.12, which has not yet been released, but it should be in the coming weeks. So take a look at that. Ben is asking about Chromium. It is, no, this is, I don't think Lighthouse is in Chromium at all. Chromium is the open source piece. Lighthouse is only included in Google's actual Chrome product, as I understand it. I could be wrong about that. But it is, you can play with it now in Google Canary, and it'll be available in mainstream Chrome when Chrome 1.12 drops. All right, let's move into the newest addition to our WordPress news roundup, and that is AI news. AI, it's all about AI this year. GPT-4 has just been released and is available for ChatGPT Plus users. I've been playing around with it quite a bit. The main differences in GPT-4 versus 3.5, more accurate, coherent, and context-aware responses. It's getting smarter, basically. It's been designed with safety measures to improve the output, get rid of the harmful or untruthful outputs. If you're like me and you've played around with ChatGPT much, you'll realize it kind of makes things up sometimes that are not correct. That's not good. It's also supposed to ultimately be a little faster. Right now, it's really slow, but they're gradually moving resources over to GPT-4. GPT-4 is also better at complex tasks. It will be available for developers to build applications through the API, which means you can probably expect a whole truckload of AppSumo AI tools to come in that are based on this GPT-4 language model. And of course, it's open for continuous improvement. Another bit of news in the AI front is Microsoft Edge. The latest version now includes that Bing chatbot that we've been talking about. So Microsoft has integrated a new AI chatbot based on OpenAI into the stable version of its Edge browser. You can download it today and play with it. The chatbot is over in the sidebar. It's you can just ask it questions and it gives you answers. It's pretty intelligent, does reasonably well with answers. It's designed to understand the context in which the question is asked and to give you relevant information. It's natural and conversational, just like ChatGPT. And Microsoft is going to work on getting it better and better. Here's a quick screenshot that I did of the bot right there. Click in the sidebar. Now, the problem here is when I tested this, it was slow as molasses. So watch this. I've asked it, what are the top features of WordPress 2? It takes seconds to actually start to answer this question. So we're just going to sit here for a little bit and just think, we're thinking, oh, okay, just acknowledge that the search was made 10 or 15 seconds later. And now you can imagine this is going to get faster. And it could also be that this is related to the current ChatGPT outage that's been experienced over the last day. Okay, here comes the answer. When I timed this earlier, it took about 30 seconds to get the question in and the answer provided. So that's not great. We'll just say that. That is not great. But you can expect this will improve dramatically as the resources become available. So there's a new chatbot. It's pretty cool. I like it. And once it gets sped up and refined a bit, I think it'll be very helpful. And it might actually convince me to use Microsoft Edge more. I don't know. I'm kind of scared to say that. We'll see. It's a great article on the WPMU blog about how AI will affect the WordPress industry. It suggests 5 key areas that we might see AI making an impact. AI-powered chatbots certainly are already in place and on many sites. AI-driven content creation tools, we're seeing a lot of those happening. It's probably going to become more mainstream. AI-powered analytics tools, those are out there as well if you search for them. AI-powered security, I think we'll see more and more use of AI in dealing with bot attacks and so forth. And of course, AI integrations with other technologies like virtual and augmented reality. A lot of that pretty interesting. Good, interesting little read there if you want to go out and read that full article from WPMU. There's been a couple of social comments I want to mention about AI that have happened over the last month. This person right here, Genevieve Roque-Decter, says, Elon Musk says that AI is one of the biggest risks to civilization and needs to be regulated. He co-founded OpenAI. Elon Musk tweeted back in return, OpenAI was created as an open source, which is why I named it OpenAI, a nonprofit company to serve as a counterweight to Google, but now it has become a closed source, maximum profit company effectively controlled by Microsoft. Not what I intended at all. So that's going to be interesting to see how this works itself out. We've covered how Microsoft has made a significant investment in OpenAI, and you see they're using it in their browser already. Have to follow that. Something else, this is probably the best take on counteracting AI fear that I've seen. This is a tweet from Sujay Pawar, who is the founder of Brainstorm Force that brings us the Astra theme and the ultimate add-ons pieces, as well as a lot of other plugins. Here's what Sujay says. Computers did not replace accountants. Instead, the accountants who used computers replaced those who did not. Similarly, AI will not replace anyone. Instead, the person who uses AI will replace those who do not. That is brilliant. I have not seen this thought summarized in such a succinct way. I'm 100% on board with this. I think he's exactly right. A few other little bits of AI news. Adam Preiser has a great YouTube video. If you've not seen this yet, I would suggest that you watch it. I didn't expect this when I taught ChatGPT how to make a WordPress website. Pretty interesting how Adam Preiser creates a whole content structure for a website with ChatGPT. And here's just an example of how ChatGPT can pass the U.S. medical licensing exam and the bar. How about that? So, yeah. AI is everywhere, and it will continue to be part of our lives. So we need to learn how to leverage it, I suppose. All right, let's move into some other news. Really great article here from Carl Groves on his blog, Understanding the Cost of Not Being Accessible. If you deal with accessibility and you want some great ammunition for trying to help clients understand it, this is a blog that makes some really good points. Accessibility is not just about compliance with legal standards, but about creating a more inclusive and equitable society. Yeah. All right. There is a continual increase in website accessibility filings from last year. So 2022 was another record-setting year for the number of website accessibility lawsuits filed in federal court. They allege that plaintiffs with a disability could not use the websites because they were not designed to be accessible or work with assistive technologies. In 2022, 3,200 plus lawsuits. That's a 12% increase over the last year. And you see this number is continuing to rise. So not many in 2017. It started to become an issue in 2018 and 19, and boom, boom, boom. It's increasing roughly 12% year over year since 2020. Most of these cases are being filed in New York because the federal court there is very open to accessibility lawsuits. New York courts have been more favorable towards plaintiffs, especially when the defendant is an online-only business. And let's see how these things shake out. Whether online-only businesses are covered by the ADA remains unanswered by the Court of Appeals. We really need some legal guidance on this, and it's not really out there. So the court cases that are happening right now are really creating the precedent for how accessibility will be ruled on in the future. By the way, those numbers do not include the many demand letters that are being sent out by law firms, especially in California, nor do they include any lawsuits filed in state courts around the country. Those are just federal numbers. Big deal. All right, Microsoft has bid farewell to Internet Explorer, and I say, don't let the door hit you in the E on the way out. Microsoft has announced that it's finally retiring its web browser, Internet Explorer, after 28 years of service. I remember using the first version of Internet Explorer way back when. It was awesome, and now it's time for it to go. It was permanently disabled on February the 14th. Users can no longer access the browser. Microsoft is encouraging them to move over to Microsoft Edge, which really, y'all, is a pretty decent browser, all things considered. IE use has continued to decline over the years. Less than 2% of users used it in 2021. Part of Microsoft's efforts to focus on newer products and newer technologies, they'll continue to support Internet Explorer for enterprise customers who have like internal applications built on custom code for Internet Explorer. And it's also working to improve compatibility with legacy websites in Edge. This is an end of an era. Yeah, for sure. A lot of tech layoffs happening right now. GoDaddy has laid off 8% of its workforce. They announced this back on February the 2nd, part of a wide trend in tech companies that experienced growth during the pandemic, but they're now cutting back the jobs that were gained. GoDaddy previously laid off around 10% of its workforce at the start of the pandemic. Not only GoDaddy, but also DigitalOcean has made a big staff cut, 11%. They're set to lay off about 200 people following a period of revenue growth. The move comes as they face increased competition from larger cloud providers like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. They were exploring the possibility of an IPO, but now they're going to focus on a cost reduction strategy to grow. And of course, DigitalOcean did acquire Cloudways, a very popular WordPress host, last fall. Beth is giving us a link in the chat. Yeah, that Amazon yesterday, and we missed that story. Amazon also had a big layoff, and you can check that link there in the chat. I saw this story and it made me sad because my friend Mika Epstein is going to retire from the plugin team. Mika is one of the unsung heroes of WordPress. She is a delightful human being as well as a brilliant developer, and her contribution to the WordPress community is one that many WordPress users do not realize. She has been a long-time member of the WordPress plugin team. She and just a handful of others are the ones who validate every plugin that's added to the WordPress plugin directory. She says it was a personal decision not related to WordPress or the community. In her typical sense of humor in the article, she says, "I'm not sick and I'm not dying. It's just time for me to do something else." Personal life stuff, a lack of availability on her part, and it's led to a delay in some plugin reviews as well. So the plugin team is working on onboarding documents and training materials to help new members to the team fill in the gaps. Truly, few have contributed as much as Mika has to the WordPress community. She's going to be missed, and I sure wish her luck in whatever she's going to focus on next. So thank you, Mika, for years of great service. This is not WordPress related news, but I read this article this month and it made me laugh. So I decided to put it into News Roundup because a man has now sued Buffalo Wild Wings, claiming that boneless wings are simply chicken nuggets. And he's right. I've been saying that for years. Buffalo Wild Wings is serving chicken nuggets and simply calling them boneless wings. The company has yet to issue a public response to the lawsuit. There you go. All right, yes, thank you, Joe. We should call that LOL News. There we go. Moving on to the WordPress Acquisitions Watch, WP 101, which is a really excellent service that provides WordPress tutorial videos, has been acquired by Awesomotive, which is the WP Beginner family of products. MemberMouse, a small membership plugin, has been acquired by MemberPress. And this is an interesting one that I think we'll see more news on as we go forward. A plugin called ActivityPub for WordPress has been acquired by Automatic. Now, ActivityPub is something that was a plugin that allowed a WordPress blog to connect to what is known as the Fediverse. The Fediverse is a group of websites called the Federated Websites, like Mastodon. So a lot of people have left Twitter and gone to Mastodon as a social network. And this plugin allows a WordPress site to join the Fediverse so that blog posts and so forth can be easily shared between federated websites. So this is something I think we'll see making an impact in the way WordPress sites connect to that whole network over there. So it's going to be interesting. We'll bring you more news on that as it materializes. This is a great piece of news I was happy to read. Equalize Digital, which is the company owned by our friend Amber Hines, who's done our accessibility training here on iThemes Training. Equalize Digital has received pre-seed funding from Emilia Capital, which is the investment company owned by Joost de Valk and his wife, Maria van Racht. So congratulations to the Equalize Digital team. This is money that's going to go into the continued development of the Accessibility Checker plugin, which we recommend 100% for getting WordPress sites more accessible. All right, last little bit here, news that is worth a look, things that we found that didn't really fit in any other place. Organizing WordCamp Asia and the challenges of diversity. Great little article here on how the event management team accommodated a diverse set of attendees for WordCamp Asia last month. Highlight of Matt Mullenweg's Q&A at WordCamp Asia. David Bissett has given us a good overview of that. 20 essential SEO tools for agencies. Search Engine Journal has given us an interesting collection of the tools that people are using to do SEO. So give that a quick look. There are some on there that you will absolutely recognize and some others that you might want to take a look at. Pretty neat stuff. 5 WordPress web design trends for this month from Kadence WP. Great article on the Kadence blog. Take a look at that if you need some inspiration. All right, let's WordPress community events and here in the WordPress world. WordCamp Phoenix is this weekend, March 24th and 25th. I hate that I'm going to miss that one. It's always a good camp. WordCamp Buffalo coming up May the 6th. WordCamp Montclair, New Jersey, June the 24th. The WordPress Community Summit in WordCamp US is coming in August to Washington, D.C. And around the world, WordCamp Asia was last month, February 17th. WordCamp Madrid there, March 11th and 12th. WordCamp Kerala in India, March the 25th. WordCamp Merton in Switzerland, in Merton, Switzerland, is the end of March. And then WordCamp Europe, which will be in Athens, is in June. So it's good to see WordCamps coming back. Hopefully by the end of this year, we'll be back to normal-ish. Hopefully, certainly by next year, we'll be back to a regular WordCamp schedule. I can't wait to get back to WordCamps. WordPress turns 20 this year, so let's party, they say. You can celebrate it with your community by organizing an event for WP20. There's a step-by-step guide on how to organize a successful event at the WordPress news article that is linked there in the footer. So if you have a local meetup or you just want to get some folks together, there's some guidelines and some help and ideas at this link to celebrate WordPress turning 20. All right, folks, that does it for this month's news roundup here on iThemes Training. A lot of things to take a look at. New version of WordPress on the horizon. I've just dropped once again today's slides and the replay link there in the chat. We'll have the replay of this up in about an hour. That's going to do it for us today. We are back tomorrow with that regex webinar to learn something. Stretch your brain just a little bit. I'm looking forward to that because I've always wanted to understand more about regex, and that's going to be my chance to do so. Of course, office hours on Thursday for members. I'll see you back here tomorrow for that regex webinar, 1 o'clock Central Time, here on iThemes Training, where we go further together.